From trichomes.com, I'm Jason Kizumura, and this is Tech and Cannabis. I talk with game changers in the tech community to gain valuable insights into the future of the fast-paced cannabis industry. Today, we are joined by Blake Villa of Designer Weed Beverage Company. Blake is on the forefront of the cannabis beverage industry, and his company has just launched a water-soluble 50 milligram beverage powder that is positioned to be a hit in dispensaries. We talk about the challenges of creating a cannabis beverage, the technology that makes it possible, and how predictability and reliability of THC in a beverage form can be a game changer for the way people socially consume cannabis. All right, and today we have Blake Villa with Designer Weed Beverage Company, President. How are you doing? Thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Anytime I get a chance to talk about cannabis beverages and where they're going in the market, I always appreciate it.
Awesome. And yeah, that's a big topic because, it seems like they're still kind of at the beginning stages of cannabis beverages, but, everybody's talking about, infusing with alcohol, CBD beverages. It's a big market to tackle. What do you think is the current state of the entire industry right now?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that cannabis beverages are still getting their start and their notoriety and their respect in the cannabis market. If you're comparing to other sectors, the flower and the concentrates and the vapes. It's new. It's not new to obviously us. Everybody drinks beverages, but it's new to cannabis beverage. So there were a lot of things that the industry naturally had to overcome. It wasn't always people with food and beverage experience getting into the cannabis beverage space. It was sometimes cannabis people, and beverages are very, very tough. They probably are the most non-cannabis based item out there in the cannabis market. And what I mean by that is that, like I said, beverages are tough to make. They require a lot of attention, a lot of specialized equipment. And if you're doing it right, the cannabis is really just another ingredient that you're happen to put it in that's a staple ingredient. So there have been some hurdles in the market. There's some obvious problems, and obviously there's not a lot of co-packers out there right now that are really doing quality jobs. There are some great co-packers out there. There's the Tinleys of the world. They're doing a great job. Space Station puts out a good product too as well. So there's options, but there aren't a lot of options. So a lot of brands that are coming up are having a hard time finding line time on quality lines and being able to put out good products. So really kind of what we're trying to do with Designer Weed is we went to the powder packet route initially. It's a little easier to make with the supply chain, the way that it broke kind of during COVID. Making a powder packet was a little bit easier for us. So we kind of did pivot away from the ready-to-drink beverage and went to a powder packet. We've launched that with lemonade, strawberry lemonade, a horchata, and a pink lemonade. We're wholesaling that for about $4. It's 50 milligrams. So we understand that to be one of the more affordable 50 milligram items in the state. And it's highly bioavailable. We use a company called Kushla React Powder as our THC delivery system. And we really, really do enjoy the experience that we get when we ingest the Kushla powder. It's high bioavailability. You receive the onset in about 4 to 9 minutes. And it's got a pretty slow offset too, so you kind of maintain the high as well. So we're looking forward to seeing how these products penetrate the market. And really just kind of excited to get another quality product out into the cannabis space. There are so many quality products, and there's so many great brands out there. And we think there's enough for everyone, so we're happy to join the fro.
Absolutely. I know there's always kind of been a barrier with the beverage market. I mean, is that due to the fact, because I guess THC is not really on its own water soluble. It's more like oil soluble. So there's a lot of, I guess, technology and advancements that have been made since then. Is that kind of what's kind of changing the industry right now?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the next play in the cannabis beverage space is going to be water-soluble THC that allows for the consumer to experience a predictable and kind of dependable experience that mimics the onset of alcohol. I feel like cannabis beverages, if they are ever to compete with the likes of alcohol, you've got to mimic that onset. It's got to be a predictable experience. It's got to be something you kind of know is going to happen. And with these new consumption lounges coming online in Las Vegas, if I was a consumption lounge owner and I was serving up an edible that kicked in, 30, 40 an hour later, that's a liability problem to me. So I feel like the liquid water-soluble THC is going to enable consumer trust to go higher than it currently is. Everybody's had a bad experience with an edible. If you look at the back of all California cannabis packaging, it says something along the lines of try it a little bit, wait 90 minutes, see how you feel, and have another dose. Really, that's kind of because that experience with edibles and requiring metabolization of the THC sometimes throws in different variables. Depends who you are, depends how big you are, depends what you've had to eat that day, depends what you've done that day. So when you enter a product like water soluble THC that is fully bioavailable, consumers receive full drug dispersion, within 9 to 15 minutes. So at that point, you are actually mimicking the onset of alcohol.
Yeah, and that seems like that's kind of would be the goal because people already know how to manage themselves when they have like with alcohol. So I mean, if they get the similar experience with a THC beverage, then they can kind of use the same kind of timing and
Sure.
figure out like how things are going to work. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now I heard I'm no expert in THC beverage science, but I did hear kind of like how the new science is working. Kind of encapsulating the THC molecules to make them more water soluble. Is that kind of something that you guys are using your technology or plans for the future? Have you heard about that?
It's a little different. The company that we're working with
Yeah.
that's providing the
Yeah.
active for us, it's a slightly different. We don't consider ourselves an emulsion or an encapsulation. The technology
Mm-hmm.
that we're currently using allows it to bond to the hydrogen molecule in the water. Can't really go much farther than that without giving up too much information, but
Right.
the stuff that we're working with right now is next level, and the ability to create the stuff is fairly easy. It comes in a solid form and a liquid form, so you can use it for the likes of gummy manufacturing and chocolate manufacturing, but you can also use it for beverage manufacturing too in the liquid form. The nice thing about this stuff too is also it's not going to stick to can liners, it's not going to stick to plastic bottles, so you're not going to have any kind of
Mm.
potency leaching. Some emulsions do have a tendency to stick to plastic bottles or can liners. So down the road, your potency tends to be a little bit off.
I see. Yeah, that could be a problem for sure. But yeah, that's really interesting stuff. I mean, how did you get into the beverage market? Were you always did you have a background in beverage, or did you just kind of go through,
Well, I
like you
do
were
have a
saying, like
background
the
in restaurant, food and beverage, restaurant
gotcha.
management, strong background there. So I do appreciate a high quality for food and beverage products. And this is also medicine too. It's a double. It's a double. So if you are not creating these products with that in mind, with food and beverage grade standards in mind, you tend to perhaps create an inferior product that might create problems for your consumers down the line or might have microbial issues that you have to take care of. So really, the way that I got the start in the business was I got my start in cannabis in about 2016 on the license acquisition side, retail, manufacturing, distribution, cultivation. Acquired and worked on some pretty big licenses and projects. Worked on some projects for One Plant. Worked on some projects for the Green Door Group. Green Door Group's a great group out of San Francisco. Just a phenomenal group. Worked on some licenses for the Urban Leaf guys. We worked on some licensing deals for the Cookie guys too. So we were working on the retail side, and the thought back in 2016 is that there would probably be about 3,000 dispensaries in California right now. And as a result, everybody realized that there's not. There's probably about 1,000, and operational, there's probably more like 800. So to get to that 3,000 mark, it's going to take a minute. So the retail license acquisition side kind of slowed down and became very competitive at the same time. So expensive to enter, very competitive, very advanced groups doing, extremely smart things to entrench themselves in certain retail markets that we're going to be opening up. So just great tactics from some of the brands that you see out there right now that have been able to acquire multiple licenses, and that's happened in the last 3 or 4 years. And that process for those companies was very tough. So once that slowed down, I kind of went out and I looked around to see what the next sector in cannabis was going to be. I thought it was going to be cannabis beverages. So I tested some of my family members on cannabis beverages. We got some seltzers and I gave them out. We tried them and everybody liked them. And then 4 days later, my mom called me and she wanted some more. So for my mom to call me and tell me that she wanted more cannabis beverages, I knew right then and there that there was absolutely going to be something. Okay, you market what you know, you teach what you know. And I saw a huge flashpoint in my mind when my mom said she wanted more cannabis beverages. She would never ask for another joint. I've never even known her to even ingest or smoke anything. So she was a new consumer drinking cannabis beverages, enjoying it, and coming back for more. So when I saw that and I realized the sociability aspect of cannabis beverage, and what I mean by that is being able to sit around with your friends and family and have a cannabis beverage. If they're having a beer and you don't drink anymore, you can have a cannabis beverage. And if you have a beverage that has an onset that's similar to alcohol, you don't really feel left out. You don't really feel like you are out of the conversation.
Right.
It's not really fun to be, not doing what all your friends are doing sometimes. And in that kind of setting, it does kind of feel weird to, maybe have a water in your hand or nothing in your hand at all. So once I saw that, I really kind of started looking at the market. I was fortunate enough to land a job up at Space Station in Woodland. Space Station is probably, one of the leading manufacturers of cannabis beverages in all of California. I was able to come up. I was the account manager, the only account manager there. So I worked with brands like Can, Venice Cookie Company, Kaizen, Uncle Arnie's, Source, California Dreamin'. And I met super smart people. The people that I met working at Space Station, and these brands, they're people that come from some of the smartest sectors and some of the smartest businesses that you've ever heard of. Fortune 500 companies, guys from the petro and oil company. It's crazy, the smarts. The people that I met, Ishan Kapoor from Cannes. This is one of the smartest guys I've met. Chuck Barlick at Pabst Labs. Jamie Shishero at Kaizen. Matt McGinn, the mad scientist Matt McGinn. He's doing great things with Fly Beverage. Had a chance to meet Howard Lee at Source. Just smart people. Peter Bishop and his wife Amy, they're great on California Dreamin', just awesome brands. So these brands that I was able to come up with really kind of entrenched my belief that you can put out a great cannabis beverage. The key to any good consumer packaged good is what's inside. And I listened to a podcast with Jonathan Sandelman the other day, the Air CEO, and he's saying consumers can't be fooled. They're too smart. They know what's in the package. You can only fool a consumer once, kind of along the lines of what he was saying. So in that regard, if you can create a great cannabis beverage, like these brands kind of showed me, if you can create a great cannabis beverage, you have good people behind it, and you've got good marketing, you can go out there and launch a brand and be pretty successful. And these brands really showed me how to do that. So I was able to come up with those brands and just learn a ton. And while I was working, for the industry in the cannabis beverage sector, we really kind of identified, kind of a few main problems in the beverage industry. Mainly quality, affordability, and scalability. So many inputs going into a beverage. It makes it very, very tough to make sure that you can create a solid beverage. So quality was a problem because sometimes certain equipment doesn't work with certain liquids. Certain liquids don't work with certain ingredients. Certain emulsions don't work with certain ingredients. So making quality beverage in the beginning of the cannabis beverage industry was tough. It was tougher, but the problems have been solved with these brands. Affordability, because there are so few cannabis co-packers, basic economics are going to dictate pretty much saying that you're going to get hosed in your co-packing fee. And what a co-packing fee is essentially you bringing all of your components to a company and saying, hey, here, put this together for me. Whatever it costs to put that together, that's the co-packing fee. So cannabis beverage brands typically are paying about 10 times more than, say, a soda brand, just a regular soda brand, or a Qua or something like that. So it's harder for these brands to achieve scalability because of the production costs. And it's to nobody's fault of their own. These production costs are typically dictated by how fast you can take liquid out of a tank, right? So the less man hours that you need to use up by emptying a tank and putting it into a can, the less you can charge on the co-packing fee side. So basic economics have kind of dictated the co-packing fees to be at kind of a higher rate versus, your traditional beverages. So what's important about that is that for every penny a manufacturer spends in California cannabis, the consumer is going to spend about 3 pennies. Okay, So if you can start eliminating certain cogs that were thought to be unavoidable, right? You can start making your own water-soluble THC and not relying on third-party emulsion providers. You can start bringing costs down by getting more specialized equipment in these bigger companies that are coming online. You can kind of bring your co-packing fee down lower, and you can hopefully bring your price point into retail down to a point where it's a little easier to gain market penetration. Right now, I don't think anybody would disagree that the cannabis beverage space is just slightly overpriced. There are brands, that are pushing out 5 milligrams for $7. I just don't really see that as a sustainable, kind of a business model. We're really trying to come down to more of that $5 point, for a 5 or 10 milligram beverage. And we found the partners, and we found the ingredients, and we found a way to do it. And it's taken some time. It's taken, pretty much going out and figuring out the way to do it ourselves. And we are kind of in that slot right now, building a facility of our own.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, people are just generally, in my perspective, they want everything now, right? That's just the kind of culture that we have now. So for something to take, with like edibles, like, 15, 20, 30 minutes for the effects to come on, if there's a reliable product that you knew that could get you within, 5 to 7 minutes, like a beverage, don't you think that more people would probably lean towards the beverage route? Do you think that's what's gonna happen in the future?
I would agree, yes. And I think it also comes back to the sociability aspect too. I don't think people, I think it's a little more fun to have a beverage than it is to pop in a gummy and, forget about it. So there's just a little more enjoyment in that. But I think you are right about that. I think the consumer trust has to come up on the onset side. It just has to be, a predictable experience, one that you want to come back to. It just has to be. It just has to be.
Yeah, I mean, once it goes kind of mainstream, there's a trusted brand out there. People start seeing the effects on a consistent basis. It's probably going to just, go gangbusters. And I think at that point, probably the cost of the co-packing and things will start to go down as well, because there'll be much more produced at a time and things like that. I mean, what type of time frame do you think that we could see something like that happening?
Yeah, I think if you look at where the beverage market was numbers-wise 3 years ago, and the fact that it's double over on itself revenue-wise for the last 3 years, and the consistent annual growth rates that are predicted for the cannabis beverage sector, I think it's going to be fairly soon. I think it's obviously going to depend on federal deregulation and what's coming there, but I think cannabis beverages are really going to be the first one that you see going mainstream in your local markets. In your Targets, in your Walmarts, in your Costco's, and your local shop markets, before you see something like a smokable or a vape pen or a concentrate. It just fits that supermarket model so much better than anything currently that really dispensaries are offering. So I really think that obviously when federal deregulation comes, it's going to change everything, but I think it's going to change most for the cannabis beverage space.
Absolutely. And I think also some of the fear with like edibles and things like that is overdosing, like if kids get a hold of like some gummies and things like that, and, people forget how many they ate. But like with a liquid, there's only so much you can drink, it's a lot harder to like, take, 10 servings at once.
If you don't mind, I'd like to go back to your edible point, though, on the parenting. First of all, first and foremost, if a child gets a hold of edibles, that's a bad parenting job. Okay, that has nothing to do with what's in the packaging. Has nothing to do with the marijuana industry. That's bad parenting. We have enough regulations on our packaging. It's child-proof, safe, whatnot. We have to go through things that the alcohol industry does not have to go through, okay? So you don't really hear about overdoses on pills for kids and overdoses on alcohol for kids, but they definitely happen. Sure. But these alcohol industry and the pharmaceutical industry have so much more lobbying power that you don't hear these stories. You hear stories about little Johnny eating 20 gummies and having to go to the hospital. Little Johnny's got a shitty mother. Little Johnny's mother should have hid that stuff from him. That's her fault. Or father, sure. I don't know who it was, but
Yeah, my point was more like the selling at Walmart, you know what I mean? So it'd be like, it's just a liability point of it. But no, I mean, kids are eating like Tide Packs. So, I mean, it's just, it's parenting at the end of the day. You know what I mean? They're going to get into whatever you leave out. So you're right, 100%. Yeah, I guess knowing what the future kind of holds, it's a big industry. What's kind of the next step for you guys? I know you guys. Well, how long ago did you actually release these the powder packs?
We just released them this week, actually. It probably took us
Awesome.
about 3 or 4 months longer than we wanted to, but getting I couldn't be happier with the team that I have. We've got a great team. We've got about 40 or 50 years experience in the cannabis industry on my team, and it took us all. It took the whole team to get a consumer packaged good out during COVID, out during just a completely fractured supply chain time. So
Yeah.
it's been a challenge. It's been a great learning experience. We're super happy. We're super happy for our next products that we're bringing out too, and really we're excited to kind of get out this water soluble THC to really everyone out there. We've signed on with a company out of Colorado to create a product that we don't think is available anywhere else. We don't know this water soluble THC or this process to have been done anywhere else. It's not an emulsion. It's not a hard encapsulation. It's extremely proprietary. It's designed for cannabis beverages. So we're excited to get this out to the masses. We know this to be a much more stable option than the current leading third-party emulsion provider, just based on the data that we've already collected over the last 2 years. The company that we were working with went down the emulsion route 2 years ago in Colorado, and they just realized it's extremely unstable. And the company that we're working with out of Colorado they have got so many more implications with their technology in the market. And really, this one was the technology behind making an oil-based cannabinoid, like you mentioned earlier, water soluble, is not new, but it's new to cannabis. Making drugs that have poor bioavailability more water soluble is not new. That technology has been out there for 20 or 30 years. Okay, but the people we're working with figured it out on the cannabis side. It's taken them years and years and years to do, millions of dollars, and they've come out with the absolute best THC delivery system in the current market that we know of today. So we're going to prove concept with this here in California. We've been talking to some of the biggest brands in cannabis every day for the last month or so, getting this product out there. So if anybody wants to get a hold of some water-soluble THC, you know where we are.
Awesome. Now, I guess tell me a little bit about the product. I know you said that they're like 50 milligram pouches. How many, I guess, servings would you say that
There's
creates?
10 servings in there. Each teaspoon is
Okay.
going to be 5 milligrams. So all you need is just a basic teaspoon to measure it out, and you can mix it with any 2 ounces or more of water and just have at it. You can you can kind of just do a little bit here and there, but we probably are dealing with more customers that are probably just going to drop it into a water bottle and sip on it, kind of
Mm-hmm.
in a short period of time. I kind of compare the high dose beverages, the 1,500 milligram beverages, to say a fifth of alcohol or something smaller. It's going to last some people weeks. It's going to last some people an hour. It just depends. So
Right.
it really can be for everyone.
Okay. And where's the best place to find this product right now?
I can't really say that right now because we're doing kind of a cool little launch here in a couple weeks with one of our first
Gotcha,
stores.
gotcha.
So if I'm
Okay.
on here, and another time, then we can definitely talk about that. But we're definitely going to be in probably the biggest, most well-known dispensaries, most well-known brand. We definitely got a deal with a few of those.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. I guess what's the next step for you guys? After you guys just got this launch, what's phase two, would you say?
We are actively trying to. We have a space. We have a space zoned. We have our partners. We have our licenses, and we are looking to build a cannabis manufacturing facility. Um,
Oh,
we want
awesome.
to do it on. We feel that we are working with enough brands currently on the water soluble THC side that we're going to be able to entice brands to work with us. If we're able to keep costs low on both the THC delivery system and production, these brands can achieve scalability that they never thought would have been possible at that point in time. So really, I'm trying to lift the beverage market up as much as I can. I really, really do believe in it. I personally don't drink myself anymore, so cannabis beverages have been great for me, and I really, really feel like they can be great for a lot of people. COVID was rough on a lot of people. People either picked the bottle up a lot more or they put it down. So everyone's looking for an alternative, and I really, really think cannabis beverages really, really do provide that.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, best of luck to your guys' launch. We'll look forward to hearing more about it when it actually comes out. But yeah, thanks for coming on the show. It was great.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Once again, I want to thank Blake Villa with Designer Weed Beverage Company for coming on to the show, and for all your cannabis news and for other podcasts like this one. Visit us at www.trichomes.com. If you want to reach out to the show, you can email us at techandcannabis@trichomes.com. I'm Jason Kitamura. Thanks for joining us.